At the heart of everything that happens here is a story. People come here for stories, whether they're set to melodies or whether they're just told between songs. But they're here for the stories that connect us, that help people discover something about themselves, that help us learn more about the world around us, that make us laugh, that make us want to take them home and tell them to other people. And there's very little difference between what happens in a church and what happens here.
Sometimes you get stuck and the wheels just spin. It's the same in drive or reverse. People shout advice from the side of the road, but it only makes things worse.
Hello, my name's Jim. My story's a little different than everybody else's, more personal stuff like that. I'm here on behalf of Shelters of Saratoga, that's where I've been for like the last 3.5 months, I think.
A job, a home, a family, but that fairy tale went off the rails, and they took my life away from me.
Do you like this subject, and is this a song you're glad to have in your toolkit now? And is it a story that you would have wanted to tell?
I've never written a song about homelessness or, that side of life, because I never found, I think it's very easy to write a bad song about.
I tried to keep up with the child support. I was working overtime.
This is actually the second time they helped me in my life. The first time was way back in 2000. I went through a divorce with my wife. My sister died. I bought a house. I had a baby all within 1 year. I had a lot of things that went on.
As a kid, I dreamed of King Arthur's court and the quest for the Holy Grail.
In like October of last year, I found out that I had emphysema and possibly lung cancer and stuff like that, which is my own doing. 38 years of smoking will do that.
And the dust of love and betrayal. The dust of love and betrayal.
I'm happy that I got an opportunity to write, because I never had a way in that I felt was, rather than being preachy or moralistic.
It's hard to sleep in the shelter at night.
So I was really far away from everything. I had to go to Hudson to Albany for all my appointments, so it was financially stressing on me, and I started getting really depressed.
Still, it's better than the street, and might point to somewhere.
And I just started getting really overwhelmed and started having bad thoughts and things like that, so I decided to come back to Saratoga.
Sometimes you get stuck and the wheels just spin.
It was a challenge, and because you said that my characters have a realism, some of those characters are not real. I mean, they are composite characters often. I mean, often they'll be more than, not just literally about, but this is different because I'm talking to one person, a real person, and I'm hearing their story and then I'm reacting to it.
I just moved into my apartment yesterday, so
I love about this concept of true songs is that these are the real people of the ballads that are living all around us, struggling through life, and it will help people. The melody itself, as we know, does something to your brain, and it helps you get inside an emotion in a way that you don't when you see something in a newspaper article.
We support over 2,000 people of diverse abilities or those with traumatic brain injuries, so we have a lot of amazing stories, but Parnell's really reached out and touched us. We've supported her since 1997. And her form of communication, she does not verbally speak, but she did some sign language.
This really is a project that does come from the heart. And so I appreciate you accepting the invitation. And then I threw you what I think might be one of the biggest challenges of the whole group, which is to tell a story in words of somebody who doesn't have words. Can you talk a little bit about sort of how you got your bearings with that and how you decided to approach it?
This was something that was totally different. It was really interesting to have, it didn't even feel like a block, like it was just really interesting. And then anytime I had questions, I would just email, you know, the people who work with her, and I was like, hey, I want to know something more specific about this. And at one point I did say to them, I was like, I'm sorry if I'm being like really, like getting really in depth and like maybe asking something that's too personal. But I was like, these are things I just feel like I have to know to, I want to do her justice.
It's been 54 years stuck in my own head. Been ripping up clothes, tearing them thread by thread. Did you think those words I wrote were in mine? Well, that's alright, I'll show you in time.
It wasn't until last year that she took the hand of one of her support staff when she saw a picture of her brother, and she started typing his name on a computer.
Changed. Each day brought something new, like questions must pile.
We've discovered her very strong presence within herself, of her dreams and her goals and her interests and the reasons behind why she does certain things. And we formed an incredible new relationship with her and discovered so much about her.
In blue, and though I may not have a voice to sing, I still have words to say.
Again, she is here this evening, and she has prepared something for you all in her own voice.
Designing them with just my own two hands. Now they look beautiful enough to wear. Finding myself with every tear. I see a stage lit up in rainbow hues.
So that was a really, it was really cool. It was a really like, I feel, I don't even know, there's like so much gratitude for being able to tell her story, you know? I feel I'm unbelievably lucky, you know? Like, to be able to meet her is an experience all in itself, and then to be able to have the job to have her words come out of me is, it was just really moving, I guess, yeah. So it was a very cool experience, to say the least.
But I'm no different from the rest of you. Sometimes there's just bad days, but they'll come to an end, and we'll be back at it once again. I see a stage lit up in rainbow hues. Red, orange, yellow, purple, green, and blue. And though I may not have a voice to sing, still got words to say.
Hearing an original story told by a person who's actually been through that experience, and then seeing how that story becomes a work of art, a song, I think is an incredibly precious experience for people to go through, to watch that unfold in front of them.
To me, this event is about more than sharing the stories of nonprofits. It's really a chance to empower anyone to go out and share their individual story. And that may not be on a stage in front of 100 people, but it may give one person the strength to go home and share one challenge with just one person that they know.
If my hands can stir the soil, carry water in this can, if I can help this seed to grow on the days it doesn't rain, if I can help this seed to grow.
You had a really interesting story to tangle with, kind of a two-piece story, and I'm wondering, you know, so you hear the story, how did you dig into it? Where did you decide to go with it?
When I met with Martell, I really gathered a lot of information. I took notes. I had a lot of questions for her. We met for a few hours. I then followed up with email questions, and she was very good about giving me all sorts of information.
Maybe that can be the start.
So my story starts at age 13, and at this age I was diagnosed with a rare genetic eye disease called retinitis pigmentosa. People often ask me what I can and cannot see, so just to ensure that you're not curious about that as I speak this evening, I can briefly describe it as no night or low light vision. I can't see any of you right now, so that's really actually helpful.
Keep me in the dark alone.
I opened up a page on my iPad and I started putting all these ideas down, and verses started to come. And they were very specific about what she had told me, about incidents, things that had happened to her. Every morning I would open that same page and there would be 3 verses. And then maybe I would edit verse 2, and maybe I would add verse 3, or I would write what I thought might be verse 5, knowing that 4 hadn't been written yet. And every morning I got up and did this. And one morning I decided to not open that page, to open a blank. Thank goodness for that, because all of a sudden it just came pouring out. And as I say, it comes from a place that is much more knowledgeable and much more knowing than I generally am.
Most people out in the world don't get to experience live music very often. Like, we live it on a daily basis, but that's not true for most people. For most people, it's this almost magical kind of thing. Like, somebody's got this guitar, they know how to extract this wonderful music from it, they come up with words for songs, they sing it so beautifully. It's like a really emotionally compelling experience for them. And that everything out there is made a little bit better when it's infused with creativity, human creativity in some way. I reached out to Mary Lee Ruin, a young woman who grew up here in Saratoga. She's taken her career out to Los Angeles now, but she certainly has had her life touched by friends who have suffered from addiction, and I knew that she could give voice to this situation, and she has done that very beautifully. Would you please welcome Mary Lee Ruin?
I watch one prize fighter in a stalemate. Every tried and true.
The way that your project, your experience of the project went, didn't end up being exactly like we thought it would be. You were going to be working with somebody from Healing Springs, and that person shared his story kind of at length in writing, and then stopped communicating with anybody, basically left the program.
Shadow, you can roll with the punches, you can soften the blow.
When he wrote to us, he was so full of hope, and he also said, I've been clean and sober for 3 months, and I thought, that must feel monumental from the inside. The first 3 months of your adult life, that you've been free from drugs and immersed in a community of support. From the outside, you hear 3 months and you say, wow, that's just barely getting started. There's a long road ahead.
Abandoning the fight, he can finally see. He's the only man left in the ring.
We just know that that's where the story ends for us, was a young man who was very full of hope and feeling healthy for the first time, and feeling, I would have to say, loved and respected for the first time in a long time.
He's coming to take the wheel. You can roll with the punches, you can soften the blow, you can give up all that pain if you let go. Let go.
From everything that I know about Healing Springs and like a lot of recovery centers, like, and my friends who've gone to recovery centers and stuff like that, the feeling of community and like support is so important, and like it's really great to have access to that sort of care, especially in such a, you know, well, I guess Saratoga's getting bigger, but anywhere it's important to have that.
You could give up all that pain if you pick up the phone.
Thank you.
To have your story validated by somebody who's a professional songwriter, have it performed in front of an audience of people in this amazing venue that everybody's heard of, it's not just your private struggle anymore. It's a struggle that helps bring people together. And now you've done something very powerful for the people around you. You've gotten outside of your suffering, and you've created something that binds people together.
This was really different. I was going into someone's story, in a sense, I was going into their sacred space. So I wanted to get it. I really wanted to get it.
This story is about how saving a dog that was out of chances started a 16-year journey, and counting, that helped me, helped Hope, and helped countless numbers of people and animals in our community.
You were out of final chances. I was in the throes of grief, escaping hopeless circumstances. My despair was your reprieve.
Chloe was a beautiful black chow chow who'd been picked up stray and pregnant at 1 year old. In the 6 months she'd been at the shelter, she had her pups and weaned them, but as so often happens, the pups were quickly adopted and Mom was left behind.
Who could see saving you would rescue me?
So I coaxed this fear-aggressive dog into the back of my car, drive her straight to Pampered Pooch and Pals for a do-it-yourself bath. Because what fear-aggressive dog who's just been taken from the relative safety of the only home they've known for 6 months by a stranger wants said stranger to give them a bath?
You shied away from affection, seeking treats. You
Do you hear somebody's story and then it reminds you of a song that you think they need to hear? Is that how it comes in?
Yeah, and I've written songs with little kids very often, just spontaneously, based on what they were bringing in that day.
But who could know, who could see, saving you would rescue me.
2 weeks later, not having found a home among people we knew, she was recovered enough to go to an adoption event. I came home from work that Friday, and my husband says, "I don't think you should take her to the adoption event."
We learn to bend expectations. Knew we'd taken on a lot, but we do it.
So I just kept countering with, "So what are you saying?" Until he said it. "I guess we should keep her."
Reaching out past no tomorrow as the coils of pain.
I wanted it to be uplifting. I wanted to talk about just the power of giving to the well-being of someone else. And there's studies that show that it changes your brain. And I wanted to be able to connect into just what it had done for Christina.
Rescue me. Giving love, giving time.
We became the best kind of failures, foster failures. She wasn't always easy and would not have worked for many families, but she was our Chloe.
And I found mine, I found mine, I found mine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Been 54 years stuck in my own head. Been ripping up clothes, tearing them thread by thread. Did you think those words I wrote were in mine? Well, that's alright, I'll show you in time. I saw the picture of my brother and typed out his name. After that one moment, everything had changed. Each day brought something new, like questions, moose pie,